Hey guys, so today I'm gonna be doing a reaction video to. Anyway, let's. I don't know if you guys know about Snow White, the movie, this Disney remake movie that is coming out. It's called Snow White and the. Well, it was supposed to be called Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. I saw it when I was a kid. Really good movie. The anime, really good. But today, because of what when I think when Disney announced that they were about to do the movie, the remake of it, this dude, Peter Dinklage from Game of Thrones. I don't know if you guys watch it. It's new. It's a good series. The last season not so good, but Game of Thrones. Yeah. So this guy from Game of Thrones, Peter Dinklage, he's a dwarf. So he was like, he's one of them woke activists. Like he was against, Disney making a movie with dwarves in them. So he said something about it, and guess what? Disney caved. Now it's no longer, Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. It's Snow White, I think, and the Seven Magical Creatures or something. I don't know the name. I'm not sure about the title, but this is something I've heard that Disney is gonna, name the movie Snow White and the Seven Magical Creatures. That sounds really cringe and weird. But yeah, so that's what I heard because of what this dude said. This one dwarf said. That's it. Just one person complained, and then a whole conglomerate caves to what this person wants. Anyway, so this Piers Morgan, one of them, Piers Morgan had something to say about it, and he brought on a dwarf that I think he's also in the entertainment industry and also some woke activist, to debate why shouldn't Snow White have dwarfs in them. Because now I don't even think they have dwarfs because there was a set photo that I saw. They never had any dwarf. I think it was one dwarf and then six other diverse colored characters. I don't even know. It was just weird. Anyway, so I love PS. Let me play this. Let's see what this is. Uh,
Dylan Posel, who played Hornswoggle, the leprechaun in WWE between 2006 and 2016, and by the podcaster and commentator James Barr.
yeah,
All right,
this guy.
James, you've got no problem with what Disney are doing. You think this is progressive and inclusive, and all those moaning about it should shut up.
I think you should live in the 1930s, actually, Piers, because that's where you belong, really, listening to what you were just saying then. Also, I'm going to quote Warwick Davis, because he said he finds it patronizing when people are offended on his behalf. Mm-hmm. And you've just spent a 5-minute monologue being offended on his behalf. Mm-hmm. And I think that's ridiculous.
Well, let me bring in Dylan, because Dylan is also offended, and he happens to be a dwarf actor. Dylan, I've got to say, I was very curious when I saw what Peter Dinklage came out and said, because I did wonder who appointed him the head of the dwarf actor community. It turns out nobody did other than him. And the people who it seems to me have really suffered in all this are the 6 dwarf actors who would have expected to have roles in this remake in a massive Hollywood blockbuster, who are now not going to have that experience, all the money, all the fame that may have come with that. What is your response to that?
Exactly.
So it's not a progression at all to me. My issue with it is exactly what you said. There are actors, dwarf actors, that live that dream to be in a major motion picture such as this Disney remake. And now, because Peter Dinklage said what he said last year, now it's taken away. And it's taken away because of quote unquote progression and all that. And it's not right. Because these are roles made for actors of my stature, roles that aren't ever really given. I can't go out for the Harrison Ford or the George Clooney roles because that's not for me. These dwarf roles are for people of my stature.
Right.
And now it's taken away. I don't feel that's right. And not only that, but now think about the additional stunt actors or body doubles or that. Now you're talking multiple actors of my stature that don't get these major roles. And why? What's the reasoning? Because we're supposed to be progressive and we're supposed to just not view them as that.
Well, you know the
these
irony.
Were heroes.
Of
these dwarves, all
was gonna
all
say
of these dwarves
Go on.
took care of Snow White.
Right.
They all had characteristics, separate characteristics. They weren't these cave-dwelling monsters that people speak of. They all had 7 different characteristics for 7 different actors that from my community, and I don't feel it's right that got taken away
completely
from us.
and utterly agree with you. And the irony is that they profess, these progressives, to want to do this to protect you, right? They protect dwarf actors from being, somehow smeared. But you don't feel that way at all.
Peter Dinklage spoke up about this, and that was my issue. He had in the past no issue cashing checks that were made for dwarf roles like Elf and all of that. Yes, he blew away the barriers when he did his roles that weren't necessarily made for a dwarf, but the Elf role was made for a dwarf. That check cleared just fine. So now that he's gone and done that, the progression of dwarf actors, it just doesn't sit right with me.
No,
this guy who is exactly what you said, what gave him the voice for all of our community?
Yeah,
why?
I was honest. I think
a complete hypocrite. Let me bring James back in. So
when
James,
Piers Morgan is agreeing with you, I think you need to be concerned. I'll say that for the.
So you're telling the dwarf actor what he should feel, having literally just lectured me about speaking for someone in the dwarf community, Warwick Davis. You now accuse a dwarf actor.
No, it's not what I said. I said that if you're siding with anyone, you've got to worry. Right. What I'd like to say actually is that I kind of mostly agree with what you're saying.
No. Now you're. Sir, that's just taking a pot shot there.
No, it is absolutely taking a pot shot. But I do agree with what you're saying. I completely agree with your point of view, and I think that's really important. But I can only speak from my experience. And as a gay man, I know that growing up, I witnessed gay people being villains in movies when I was
7 dwarves aren't villains.
And that I think stereotypes are really important to.
What stereotype do you think they represent?
In the universe of Snow White, wouldn't it be better if dwarves
This isn't a part of this about the stereotype.
Right.
This is about roles that were made for people such of my stature that don't have the chance to go out for other roles normally.
But you, James, so why are you want to stop Dylan getting a role in a Hollywood film?
I am not going to get into an attack on a dwarf.
You don't want a dwarf actor to land a role playing a dwarf part.
Listen, a dwarf can play a dwarf part, but I think it's important to change narratives that don't fit in today's society. And really, narrative? It might be better if dwarves just exist in normal roles everywhere because they do exist.
What was so bad about the way dwarves were depicted in Snow White? Have I missed something?
Well, listen, I'm not here to talk about...
That's what I'm kind of wondering.
I don't represent Disney, but I'm just saying I think I see their point of view.
What's their point of view? What was so bad about the depiction of the dwarves?
Why are you so upset about a movie changing with the times and moving forward?
Because I think that honestly, with great respect,
there is real news we could be discussing.
No, but this is real news if you're a dwarf actor who are now out of work because of virtue signaling idiots.
But you're just
who think that everything has to be rewritten to be inclusive.
As a cheap
when in fact it's not inclusive at all.
No, you're using Dylan as a cheap shot to attack a wokie.
I don't think Dylan feels I'm using him as a cheap shot. And what I would say about the wokie thing is this: I have spent the last year listening to people tell me only gay actors should play gay parts. Only Welsh actors, so Michael Sheen, should play Welsh characters, and so on and so on and so on. But the moment we have dwarf roles, which are the most famous dwarf roles in Hollywood history, then the only people apparently who can't play them are dwarf actors.
Weren't dwarf
and
roles.
I see there
it's a cartoon
stinking
here.
woke hypocrisy.
It has not changed. It was a cartoon. Those weren't actually dwarfs in the movie. They were drawn, okay? So firstly...
They were drawn as dwarfs.
No, that is...
But it's a story about dwarves,
dwarfs.
Well, they shouldn't be called that. They should be called...
They shouldn't be called dwarves.
No, they should be called people with dwarfism.
They shouldn't be called
What's wrong with being called
dwarves?
But that's not the
That's the story.
Dylan, apparently you're not allowed to call yourself...
Apparently,
Dylan, you're not...
People with dwarfism. This is what we are saying now. People with dwarfism. What the hell is that? Like, what is that? People with dwarfism. What does that even mean?
You're not allowed to call yourself dwarfs, apparently.
I would love to hear, what should I call myself, sir?
I think you should call yourself whatever you feel comfortable with, but as a person...
He calls himself a dwarf.
Well, that's great.
A dwarf.
Good for you. I'm happy.
So now, sir, let me pause that. So it shouldn't be called Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. It should
Listen,
just be
I
called
do not want to
Snow
get
White.
cancelled
So are you
because I
saying-
think your point of view is more important than mine right now. But what I'm annoyed about is Piers trying to take a cheap shot at someone that believes in society moving forward.
Yeah, I'm actually
Because really, if we
I'm
were to
actually
get-
exposing the hypocrisy
It's
of
not-
the woke mentality of only gay people can play gay parts,
Sure.
only trans actors can play trans parts, and so on and so on and so on.
I think we would
right
get
to the
to a
point,
place where
right to the
everyone
point.
can play
Snow
every
White and the
role.
Seven Dwarfs has to be cancelled because you're not allowed to have dwarf.
You should be happy, Piers, because it means that now you can play your dream role of Grumpy.
I would love to play Grumpy. I loved all the dwarves in that movie. They were great. Let me ask
now
you
you're
guys.
being a hypocrite. You'd love
Here's-
to play
here's-
Grumpy, but
no,
you're
no, no,
taking
no,
a role
no.
away from a dwarf
The issue
actor
at hand.
No, I would play a fully grown Grump quite happily.
by taking away a role from a
Let me
dwarf.
ask you, Dylan, about the Hugh Grant playing an Oompa Loompa, because again, it seems
All right, this is ridiculous. I'm just gonna leave it there. This guy is out of his mind. People with what dwarfism, that is supposed to be something like that is supposed to be what, you know, when you're a wokey, like it's almost impossible for you to be in reality, for you to operate in reality. And it's a disease, this woke disease. And I'm calling it's a woke disease. This sort of thing is it's insane. Is really insane. I mean, yeah, it's for laughs. I'm making video reactions to it, watching these people talk. But at some point, it's sad. I mean, it was funny before hearing these people talk, all these liberal wokies. But now, when you listen to them talk, you don't know whether to be sad or just frightened, because this is what this. I mean, he was capped. This guy, I don't know him, but he looks young. He looks very young. So I'm sure he's been with other liberal wokies, and they talk like this, and he thinks that this is the way reality is. Nobody talks like this. I've never heard anyone say dwarfism. Is that even a word, dwarfism? People with dwarfism. Anyway, that's my thoughts on it. I think this whole thing is ridiculous. I think this is also going to be another woke movie that is also going to fail, just like Barbie. I mean, I've not seen Barbie, but Barbie is what everyone is talking about now. And I've heard a lot about that movie. You know, is this woke feminist nonsense? I wasn't going to see it. I was never going to. I mean, I don't think I'm the primary audience for Barbie and this nonsense. Disney Snow White and Seven Magical Creatures. It's gonna fail. It's gonna be a box office disaster. I don't know why they keep making movies like this for some, fringe progressive left that don't even watch it. Barbie is gonna fail. This movie, whenever it's gonna get made, is going to fail. It's gonna be a box office disaster, just like other previous adaptations they've made. They're all gonna fail. I don't know why they keep repeating this. I don't know why. They are losing money. Like, who is in charge of Disney making movies? Is it I'm Bob Iger? What is he doing? He keeps making all these movies. He keeps making all this woke nonsense. No one is watching. Why? I mean, that begs the question, why? Why are you making this? Why are you making these movies? Nobody's watching. It's not making you any money. So why are you making this woke trash? Like, seriously, why? This is crazy, yo. This is really crazy. Anyway, yeah, that's my thoughts on the video. I think they've made a big mistake. I think this Peter Dinklage guy, he has cost a lot of people, a lot of dwarfs, roles in movies, even though Peter Dinklage himself is a multi-millionaire from things from Game of Thrones. He's now a multi-millionaire enjoying himself, but now other people will have to suffer because he doesn't want to be offended by people calling him dwarf. This is stupid. This is crazy. But anyway, that's my thoughts on it. If you like the video, please hit that like button, hit the share button. Leave your comments down below. I love to read them. And if you may, please subscribe. You have a good night.